Mikey, you know what I find really interesting?
What do you find really interesting?
In the last week, I have had 3 different people tell me that they're brewing around Lord Xander, and that, I'll be honest, terrifies me a little bit.
Do I know these people?
You know all 3 of them.
Why do I don't? Oh God.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to Hometown Commander. It's your boy Millzy, and with me is
a nervous Mikey.
And we are back today for a really cool episode. Of course, this week we've seen all of the deck list and spoilers for our new Capenna Commander decks, which I believe are officially Commander 2022, but we're probably going to be wrong on that.
Hey, you know what? We just put all of our money together, buy WotC.
Buy Wizards of the Coast. Come on, guys, join us on our quest to put all of our money together and buy Wizards of the Coast. But before we talk about some precons, that was a loud open.
That was nice.
I have to acknowledge it now.
That was beautiful. Like you one-handed.
We are sipping. We are sapping.
Liquid Death, please sponsor us.
Yeah, we're sipping out on some Liquid Death today. No Rogue Energy, but you can go over to rogueenergy.com, use that code HOMETOWN, get you some energy powder you're going to put in water, all of those cool vitamins that we know and love, hopefully. None of that nasty sugar, all of the good caffeine.
Yeah.
Get yourself some energy. We can go over to the Discord. We're still rocking it in the Discord.
Yeah. You have
we still out here.
So many new Capenna things in the Discord.
Yeah. Funnily enough, shout out. I just joined. Someone posted on Reddit yesterday. They posted a mono green Discord. You know I'm in that Discord channel. It's super toxic, but I love it. And
I'm out.
I just want you to know that I was very offended. I went in, and there were different rooms, or different kind of rooms for each different popular mono green commander. Was very offended that Goreclaw wasn't one of them, and I will not let it go.
What was like 2 of them? Just give me 2.
You know, you've got like Selvala. You've got.
Okay.
Let's see. Can I pull it up on my phone
without stopping
the recording? Yes, I can.
Hey-oh.
We have Yisan the Wanderer. You have Marwyn, Selvala, Seton, Croson Protector, Ashaya, and of course Yeva, Nature's Herald.
Interesting.
But I thought it was very intriguing that, of course, my girl was not on the list. I made it very clear to the moderators that I was.
How dare you!
I was very offended that she was not on that list. But we are over on our.
Sorry. For the listeners out there, I just recently went to a comedy show. I've already talked about this in a previous episode, Trevor Wallace, if you're listening, I don't know why, but
thank you for finding this somehow.
Yeah, for sure. He plays Commander, and we don't even know it. No, he's a comedian. He's really funny. He came to Dallas on my wife's birthday, which was awesome, and that was a lot of fun. He tells this joke though. He goes, "Man, you Dallas people, y'all are kind of crazy. Y'all are actually really crazy. Y'all just carry because you can." And then everybody just goes, yeehaw and woohoo and whatnot. Yeah. And he just goes, "Why?" And then everybody just goes, "Woo, yeehaw," and whatnot. And I'm just like, oh my God, what kind of country do I live in right now? And then he goes, "Y'all carried in here, didn't y'all?" And then somebody from the balcony just goes, "Don't worry about it." And he goes, "I'm worried about it because y'all are carrying guns. You know what we carry around in California? A lot of opinions." And I was just like, yes. So good.
I'll be honest though, like that's the one thing, without getting super political in our podcast, that's the one thing I actually really enjoy about living down here is that I am able to have a firearm in my home if I would like to have one, and the government doesn't tell me whether I can or not. And I feel like it's almost more protective because it's like, if you're going to go rob someone's home, you have no idea whether or not they have...
You know why I feel more protected in my house right now?
Is this a magic thing?
Because I got a foil lightning bolt.
Oh, okay.
Ready to go, baby! All right.
So is this a magic thing? Or
it is. Let's jump right into this now. I know you were leading, but you're holding me to a standard.
We got 5 precons. We of course, released 1 for each family. So we thought it'd be cool, right? Just to go through them.
Vin Diesel family.
Talk about them. Talk about some cool reprints. And then, just like we did for Kamigawa, right, Mikey? We're going to go through and talk about the cards that we're excited about, either to try in our main decks, to brew around in the future, and go through it. So, Mikey, what is our first precon? I'm going to make you say it because I might be too excited about it.
I'm going to barf because you're making me say it. It is called Cabaretti Cacophony?
Cacophony.
Cacophony. How the smack is a What the smack is a cacophony?
Isn't a cacophony? Isn't it a term like the musical term, meaning like a bunch of sound together?
Yeah. Okay, cool. That makes sense. They should have said symphony. I feel like they would have been better.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe in hindsight, but it's alliteration. All of them are alliteration.
I think it's a party with music or something
Maybe.
like that.
I don't know, but anyway, we have the Cabaret Cacophony deck, pre-constructed commander deck. This is red, green, white with our commander Kit, Kanto, Mayhem, Diva. We talked about all 5 of these commanders in last week's side episode where we talked about our first impressions for I almost said Kamigawa, for Capenna. But we won't go over them again. What we really want to do here is talk about what is in the list and what of note is in the list. I think the biggest thing for me that got reprinted in this list is 2 cards. One is Beastmaster Ascension. This is a really good reprint to get in a deck like this, especially considering that's a pretty pricey card. It sits at I believe $8 to $10 right now, depending on where you find it. For that, that's 8 or 10 of the $40 you're going to spend on this deck, and that's huge. That's an upgrade that you don't have to put in. The second, and I am honestly surprised because, to be honest, most of the time the land bases in these decks are a kind of hot garbage. But we got to reprint a Rugged Prairie in this deck, which is the red-white filter land. I know some people have differing opinions on the filter lands, but it is sitting at $5 or $6.
Right.
Which I think is really cool that we did get a reprint of that. I think it's really helpful for this deck, and I think it just, honestly, it's a pretty good reprint. I think the third really good one here is going to be Path to Exile. It's good to get a good removal spell, a format staple as far as removal spell goes. Actually, funny enough, we do also get that was the Jund Precon. I was going to say Blasphemous Act, but I apologize. That's in another deck. But yeah, honestly, I was actually very worried about this list because I was very intrigued to see how this list was going to pan out.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I really like this list. Now, to peel back the curtain, every one of our members of our main play group here is going to be buying one of these, and we're going to be doing a couple games with them. This is the one that I was very interested in buying, and I have to say, I'm impressed, to be honest. I think the list is pretty good.
Yeah, it's really solid for sure. Before we repeat ourselves 5 billion times, all the filter lands are in each of these 5 precons, which I think is really, really awesome.
Or at least one. Not all 3 filter lands.
Not all 3.
But each of them have a filter land?
Have a filter land, which is going to be around, I think, the main 2 colors that are, like, not the main 2, I don't want to say, but the 2 colors that are most prevalent in each of the 5 decks. So we don't repeat ourselves. Yes, the filter land. There is a filter land in each of the 5 precons. Filter lands, they're pretty good. They're not my favorite. I know you like them a lot, just because they do have a lot of flexibility in which mana you can get out of it.
Now, for certain color combinations, I like in a 2-color deck, I think they're free because you're already using that mana anyway. When you get into 4 or 5 colors, I think they become less useful because there's a lot better mana bases. Now, of course, just so people, if you're listening to this and you've never looked at a precon deck list before, most of the time WotC does not include many rares from the actual set, so we're not seeing any of the. We're not getting the Ascendancy here.
But we are getting the Charm.
We do get the Charm.
Uncommon.
We're not getting the Triland, and we're not getting Jetmir or anything like that.
Yeah.
So just so you're aware that if anyone's going to tell you anything, most of the time I would advise the first plate you start with upgrades for any of these precons are going to be the rares that come in the set. Most of the time they're going to be great.
Yep.
But Mikey, I think overall, Cabaret Cacophony, great card. Now, MTG Goldfish, or great deck. Now, MTG Goldfish, where we're looking at this at, just for transparency, does list a value for this deck, but it's because they've already priced out the new cards.
Right, which you never can really go off of.
Which I think actually some of them are probably going to end up being what they call the value to be, but others aren't going to be.
Yep.
So I think the thing about this deck, though, is it is definitely worth the $40. In fact, all 5 of them are worth the $40.
For sure.
But this deck, I think you get a ton of value for $40.
Yeah, man, you get a lot. You get good value out of the new cards, and you get hilarious good value out of the reprints. I mean, you have something like Scoot Swarm.
Huge reprint there.
Yeah,
or good card there included.
You're getting Path to Exile to respond to once again. You're getting a fun card I just lost it. Where did it go?
I love that you get Assemble a Legion,
Yes,
we get
that's a good
multiple
one.
ways at instant speed to make tokens. March of the Multitudes, called the Copper Coats.
You're getting a fun card, a fun commander card that goes back to C14. What's up, baby? Sylvan Offering. I think that's just a really fun commander card. It's not the greatest, no, but I think it just shows a new player buying this precon what commander can do. You play this card to not help, but you play it strategically to basically put more pressure onto your opponent however you can do so.
And I do want to note every deck in this set comes with Soaring, Arcane Signet, Commander Sphere, and Command Tower, which is great. Those are 4 very good cards to have in any commander list. If before you go ahead, or before you were to get it more focused, I think those 4 cards, all of them might have an Exotic Orchard. I'm not sure, but
I'm sure I think they are moving towards the Exotic Orchard more, which is
very good to see that they all have it, because I think all 4 or 5 of those cards are very important. So, Mikey, let's move from
bye-bye Cabaretti.
our Cabaretti deck to Obscura, the Obscura Operation Precon. This is headed up by Camise, Obscura Oculus. I have to say, Mikey, I was very impressed by this list.
I am as well.
This list has a lot of value in it that I honestly just, if I can be 100% honest, I just didn't really expect. The first and the big one for me was stuff like Fallen Shinobi.
Yeah.
That just seems really interesting. And
another
Silent Blade Oni.
Yeah.
And Rexiel. Kind of intriguing cards here. I mean, it makes sense because Camise is giving the power to make things unblockable, but just kind of reprints that I wouldn't have expected. I also love seeing one of my favorite one of my favorite Zendikar creatures of all time, Drana Liberator Malakir, in this deck. I think is really cool.
I like the Archon of Coronation. Anything that gives you Monarch, I think Monarch's really cool in a lot of ways.
Cool part here is we do see all 3 signets.
Yeah.
Which I think is really good. Of course, the Naya deck, Cabaret deck didn't need it, but here we do see all 3 of them, which I actually think is really huge. And of course, Mitch from the Commander Quarters would be very happy. We have our Wayfarer's Bauble getting another printing here, which is going to be good. As much as we can print that card, the better. I'm just really impressed, to be honest, with this deck. I think that there's a lot of great reprints here.
This one comes with the opposite of Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares.
Which is huge.
Yep.
Of course, one of the single best removal spells in our format. Again, we get the Charm, which is good.
Yeah.
Although it's not very expensive, love seeing Treasure Cruise show up in lists. Still such a fun card, even though, of course, there are way better draw spells in our format.
For sure.
Get to see one of my favorite Dimir creatures of all time, Thief of Sanity, is in this deck, which I really like. That creature is a ton of fun. Of course, my favorite fairy is in this deck, Alayla, Artful Provocateur.
Which really threw me through a loop.
Gets a reprinting in this deck, which I think is great. I think it fits the style of the deck really well. So, to be honest, Mikey, I think this deck is really good. Again, you're getting your complete value here in a lot of cards. And, of course, the new cards in this deck are really good. But we're going to talk about the new cards in a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, even Sun Titan sees a reprint, a good commander card of old. Not as good anymore, but still cool. One of your favorites, Dragon Lord Ojutai, sees a reprinting in this deck, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, he's great.
Really interesting here. I mean, again, I think they built the deck well. I think it's more than worth its $40 price point. So if you're wanting to do the flyers and kind of attacking route, I think this deck looks really cool. I apologize. The Cabaret deck is all about making tokens and attacking with tokens. Obscure Operations seems to be really all about making your creatures unblockable and getting that advantage through combat. It's really interesting. Anything else, Mikey, that stands out to you with this list?
No, I mean, this is literally what your rogues, what your ninjas want to do. Just adding that white makes it a little more flexible, I would say. I wouldn't say it makes it better, but you can definitely do a lot more things with the white now added to it.
Love seeing, although it's not as good as it used to be, love seeing the Utter End in this list. Of course, Anguished Unmaking would be the better of the two.
Yeah.
But of course, we can't put every good card in a precon.
Sure we can.
I'm going to be honest, I think that, again, the list is pretty good. We get the Charm, just like we did before, and then every deck has a Confluence spell, but we can go over those later when we talk about the cards in general. But again, Pretty good list. Next up, we have the Riveteer Rampage, our Jund commander deck here for the Riveteers. I have to say, I was actually really impressed by this list.
Oh, this list is nutty.
I think this commander deck has the best new cards of any of the 5 of them, because almost all of them are hits. We're not going to talk about those. What I want to talk about is the list itself, and I was actually really impressed at kind of what we got as far as reprints go. We get a Blasphemous Act, which is fantastic.
Yep.
One of the best board wipes in our format, most of the time being casted for 1 red mana. We get a reprint of Windgrace's Judgment, which is a really interesting removal spell from a few years back.
I like Terminate. That's such a fun card.
Terminate's a good. We get Rampant Growth in here. We get Farseek. We get Cultivate.
Yeah.
love seeing lots of ramp. I would have rather, of course, had Kadama's Reach over Migration Path, but that's okay. I actually, Mikey, I was kind of head scratchy a little bit on some of the creatures we got reprints of. Avenger of Zendikar is fantastic. We need more of them. It's such a great creature card, and I'm glad.
But why in here?
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. I would have thought it would have been in the Cabaretti deck, the deck that cares about tokens. The one that really threw me off was Artisan of Kozilek. Seems kind of odd for a deck that cares about blitzing stuff in, but I guess with your commander, depending on the more times just a 9 CMC creature kind of seems a little high in my opinion. But we get a Giant Ataphage reprint, which is good. The top end of this deck is just crazy. Inferno Titan, Noxious Gearhulk, all these fun big creatures that are going to do a lot of good value when they come down. So this deck, I have to admit, is pretty interesting. And our Filthy Land of choice here is Twilight Mire, which is actually the most expensive of the 3 we've seen so far. So that is good.
What's interesting is you get a Kessig Wolf Run, which I think is awesome. You just give somebody a little bit of a boost and a little trample. Never hurt anybody except for your opponent.
And then, although it doesn't cost as much anymore, there is a Warstorm Surge in the deck, which is actually really good. So that's cool on the top end. And of course, same thing, Arcane Signet, Sol Ring. Cool here to see the Lifecrafter's Bestiary, although the card's not as expensive as it used to be. Still a really cool artifact there for green. Although we, of course, in red and black have other ways to pay off.
There's actually, I think it's in the Maestro deck. It is. There's so many, to just kind of change it just for a second. There's so many cards that are in the other precons that I'm like, that should have went in this one, and this one should have went, like AOZ should have went in the Cabaret, 100%. Like, we're going to sit here at a table when we have all 5 of these precons at a table. We're going to sit there and go, you just want to like trade this real quick?
Yeah, for real. Interesting thing that I've noticed so far is the Thriving Lands from Jumpstart, originally from Jumpstart, where they're one color, you pick another color as they come in. Each deck does have all 3 of them. I don't like them, but I'm just pointing out that they are all in here, which is interesting.
I think it's cool to have them in a precon. It definitely helps you get the right mana you're looking for. I know a lot of times if you're playing, especially 3 colors, like Braden, I know you're listening. So, like Braden, he says that he doesn't want to make 3 colors work because he feels like he can barely get 2 colors to work. Well, that I think helps push that advantage a little bit, or not necessarily push advantage.
I have a suggestion to fix that problem.
Well,
most of the time it's money, but
exactly.
With the right mana base, you can make anything work.
For sure, but I mean that costs so much because lands are, for some dumb reason, it's a good reason, but for some reason they're expensive.
Unfortunately, the most important cards in the game. So
I think having the Thrivings in there definitely help a newcomer to the game go, oh, finally I can actually play the cards that I want to. So
next we move into
a Massacre.
What was definitely one of the most anticipated precons by our little play group, and that is the Maestro's Massacre. This was our first deck that we got to see, and I have to say, I really don't hate this list. In fact, I have to say I really love the removal.
Yeah.
In this list, we get a reprint of Bedevil, one of the better cards from our time and our last trip to Ravnica.
We get Kess.
You get Feed the Swarm. It's still a fantastic black card, allowing you to destroy enchantments, which is not something that black can normally do on its own.
Right.
We have a decent amount of draw in Preordain and Ponder and Frantic Search.
Yeah.
It shows that this deck is a spells deck because, to be honest, the spell kind of main part of this deck is actually very good. We get a reprint of Double Vision here, which isn't really a reprint. I mean, it's not that expensive of a card, but still a very good card to put in here.
Here's the card that I was really, really frustrated about. Ride of the Raging Storm. Why is that in this deck?
I think it's in there as kind of like a goad payoff, but I don't know why it's in this deck.
I feel like it needs to go in Riveteers.
Yeah, that or even the Cabaretti deck, since Kit cares about goading creatures.
It is, yeah.
I think this is just another one of those ways of the small like control that Red has sometimes to kind of push people off. The card that I'm very excited, was it? It wasn't in this one, was it?
The Extravagant Replication.
I thought I saw that one of them. Nope, I was wrong.
Different deck?
I thought I had seen a Disrupt Decorum reprint, but
hang on. One more thing that...
I don't know if I remember seeing it. Maybe not. Maybe I was just dreaming it.
One thing that really, really threw me through a loop, I texted you about this, I think, earlier today or yesterday. The wonderful card of Lightning Greaves going in this deck and this deck alone.
And not
all 5.
Probably Riveteers, where it would make one of the most pieces of sense, or the Obscura where they care about attacking. Yeah, kind of interesting.
I really want to know, like, what was the thought process in putting it just in this deck alone? When, like I said in the message, we have seen Swiftfoot Boots, which is, yes, a little more expensive on the mana base because you have to pay 1 to equip it rather than 0. But what was their thought process in just putting it here rather than not putting it everywhere when we've seen Swiftfoot Boots everywhere? Really strange, really intriguing.
I enjoy the inclusion of Twinning Staff in this deck, which is good because, of course, you can use it to double up on Hello's Trigger and things like that. So, or you can copy more spells, which, of course, is always good. I did enjoy that this deck had a reprinting of Rekindling Phoenix from Rivals of Ixalan, one of my favorite cards in Standard at the time. Cool to see it used here. Rekindling Phoenix is just a fun card. I joked last night, our player played, and we were chatting about this deck. I kind of joked that this is really an Arc-like Phoenix list. It would have been more, actually, probably a better Phoenix for the list. But of course, we do actually get we do actually see a new Phoenix Commander in
which
this.
Makes me happy.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. But same thing here. All 5 of these are definitely worth their $40. But I think if you're looking for the Grixis spell strategy, I really like this precon because it also comes with Kess, who is one of our most popular Grixis spells commanders. I kind of like that because you kind of get a lot of value, I think, in all of the commanders that we get out of this deck, especially if you want to go
She's really great. I think she's a top 10 on EDH track.
And we do get something like Goblin Electromancer, which is good. Would like to have seen maybe the Electrostatic Field and a Gutter Snipe.
One of those, yeah.
That's okay. I mean, again, we can't have everything in every precon, but we're going to go to our final precon. Mikey, one of the ones you were the most excited about, and that's Bedecked Brokers, our Brokers precon. I have to say, this deck honestly kind of both made me really happy and disappointed me a little bit.
I'm in the same boat.
There's a lot of things I like about this deck, but then there's a lot of cards where I'm just like, you couldn't tell me that there was a better cards you could have slotted in. First off, I just want to say, most interesting reprint, although it's not really as played as much anymore, we do get an Ever-Flowing Chalice in this deck.
Yeah.
Of course, that's a big thing because it puts counters on it, of course, which you can use. But I also do love seeing what was the card? Of course, my favorite blue artifact in the last 2 years. We do get a Midnight Clock in this deck, which has been interesting. I don't know. I mean, I don't dislike the deck. I think it has a lot in it. I love seeing that we get a couple Hydras here. We get the Turtle Hydra. I forgot its name.
Steelbane.
Yeah. We do get a couple interesting things. I kind of wish they had played a little bit more into +1/+1 counters with this precon, because it kind of feels like they missed a lot of it.
I think I'm personally looking at it today, this morning or whatever, like, it just looked all over the place. Like, there's not a
I love the Generous
strategy.
Gift reprint. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Another great removal spell. And I think again, this is another one of those decks that was a home run in the new cards, but we'll talk about that in a little bit
for sure.
I just think that this deck kind of feels all over the place more than anyone else.
Yep.
The Maestro deck felt a little bit all over the place, but that's okay because it's a spells deck, so it's going to feel all over the place. Yeah. But this one to me just feels like
it's a creature.
I told you this before. The broker strategy is going to have to pick a lane. You can go the Super Friends route if you want to. You can go the +1/+1 counters route if you want to, or you can do the counter tribal route if you want to. But you kind of got to pick one and kind of fit yourself in that lane.
Yeah.
And I think that this deck just unfortunately kind of is a jack of all trades, and none of one, in my opinion.
And I think that's where it's going to fall short. I mean, we'll see when we get to play and whatnot, but like when I play it, I'm gonna play it to the best of my ability, but I don't see it being the one that stands out. I think it's gonna fall short. Now, and again, we can talk about it later, but I do like both the commanders that come into this deck. I think they're both really strong. I will probably put both of them in my ban list already.
So like we talked about with some of the other decks, I think just like with the Obscura deck, I think every commander in this list is good. I mean, the other of our commanders are good. They all play with different things.
Yeah.
I think my problem with this deck is my same problem with the Obscura deck, and my same problem with the Cavalry deck, which is something we've already talked about already, which is that the heads of the families that we get in the set, in my opinion, just completely outshine these commanders. Which, again, I completely understand. They made these decks and these commanders specific to these decks. I completely understand that.
Right.
I know that that's kind of an unlevel playing field to compare them on. And I know that these decks are built towards these face commanders. So, of course, you can't necessarily just completely swap in the family commander and expect the deck to work for sure all the way. But I would kind of argue for most of these, you really can. Most of the family commanders fit very well. The family leads fit really well into these lists. Just straight 1-to-1.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think if any of them, I think Jetmir and Rafine probably fit the best.
Yeah.
They kind of their decks are already built to do what they want to do anyway. I think Xander feels a little clunky as the leader of that list, so maybe it's not the best for that one.
Xander fits.
But I think Spara fits this list very well.
In a way, yeah.
And I think Ziatora probably isn't the better commander for the precon, but I still think she does a very good job as a commander to that precon.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mikey, we talked about all 5 of the precons. Again, if you guys are considering any of them, if you like any of them, the value's there.
Yeah.
It's worth the $40. Go ahead and pick them up at your local game store. If you don't have a local game store near you, go ahead and check out your Walmarts or your Targets. They're all going to have them. And just like most of the Commander 20X products in the past, these are going to be available for a while.
Yeah.
So don't feel like if you don't get it this weekend. The good thing about these precons is that Wizards prints a lot of them.
Yeah.
We're still able to find. I've been in Walmart a couple of times, in the last few weeks, and I always just look because I'm always intrigued. You can still find Crimson Vow precons. You can still find Kamigawa precons. You can still find Midnight Hunt precons. So these precons are not going to go anywhere. Now, if the Commander 2021 and 2020 taught us anything, it's that one of these decks is going to be the most popular and it's going to be the most expensive on the secondary market. That's unfortunately just
how things work.
kind of the way the cookie crumbles. But I think just like with Commander 2021 and Commander 2020 before it, all 5 of these decks have value.
Yeah.
There's no lack of good value, and I think if you're interested in I think I view these the same way I did mainly the Strixhaven precons, because we can't really compare these to Ikoria because Ikoria was kind of different. But all 5 of these precons do a good job of at least getting you in the neighborhood of these families' mechanics and ideas. Just like Strixhaven, each of the 5 precons did what those colleges wanted to do, more or less. And they gave you a starting point if maybe you want to make a Maestro deck, but you're not sure how to start. I think this precon is a good start, or for any of the other 4 families. So if this is your first time playing Commander and these lists are maybe the first precon you're buying, I think they're a good place to start. I think they have good value. But not only that, they're a good starting off point for decks. I always love the precons, especially these big Commander 2022 or 21 or 2020, because they're such good places to start. You get good reprint value. You're getting a better, in my opinion, still a better mana base than normal in these. Most of the time they're a little bit better than the ones we get with the sets.
Which one, talking about a new player, which one do you think would be the easiest to pick up and play?
So I'm going to answer that question in two ways. I'm going to go best value out of the box, and I'm going to go best strategy out of the box, because I think they could be different.
Yeah.
The best value out of the box seems like a tie to me between Cabaretti and the Riveteers. They're both just packed with good cards. And not only that, but I think if you care about the family strategy in general, both of those precons do a very good job at leading you straight onto the on-ramp into that family's strategy. Easiest to pick up and play, I would say probably...
My vote's either Riveteer or Obscura being the easiest to play.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say Obscura or Cabaretti. I still think the Cabaretti deck's probably gonna be pretty easy. I mean, once you gum the board up with enough creatures, it's pretty easy to kind of protect yourself. I think the Obscura list just looks like a ton of fun. It
really does.
It plays control better than the Maestro deck does, and it's going to probably catch some people off guard with how much value you're gonna get by attacking.
Yeah,
and even to the point that when it swings, you're gonna kind of be wondering what they have up their back pocket. Right. I think the Obscure deck looks like a ton of fun to play. I mean, it's the one that, I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting to like, and it's the one that looks honestly the most surprising to me and the most intriguing. Now, that is the other reason I like that one is because it has what could potentially be a very expensive enchantment, but we'll get into that later.
I will say all 5 of these decks is one of the first times in a long time that I would not mind picking up all of them.
Yeah, I'll be honest. If I asked, this is just I'm just going to use this because this would be something that I could expect. But if my wife went to Walmart and bought me one of 5 of these precons and didn't tell me which, she just saw it because it looked interesting. She said, "Oh, it's Magic cards. I'm going to get it for you," and brought it home. I would not be let down with any of these 5.
No, I wouldn't.
I think I'd be able to make a pretty good deck out of all 5 of these, whether it's swapping out the commander or not, to make them pretty good. So, Mikey, we talked about the precons. We talked about the value. Let's get into the new cards. We have a lot of new cards.
What are you talking about?
Which I really like. Of course, that's the reason that we buy these precons. Isn't just for our reprints, but it's also for the new cards. So, Mikey, we could probably talk about these new cards for a while. There are a lot of really interesting new cards that we got. What I want to do is, we did the same thing for Kamigawa, and we're about to do the same thing for Capenna. What I want to do is, let's try to narrow these cards down to ones that we're either excited to put in decks that we already have, or that we're excited to build around, or maybe put in a new list that we're brewing. Like, if we're building one of these families decks, what are these cards that we're, which we both are, and I'll tip my hand to which 2 I'm brewing.
I was about to say, we're both brewing probably multiple.
So, I'll start just to make it easy. We have what I don't like saying this card's name because I know it has some bad juju in the format, but I think we have what is probably the best Smothering Tithe clone we've seen in a long time in Smuggler's Share.
That is a great card.
This is an interesting new enchantment. It, of course, is not Smothering Tithe.
No.
It is not. It is not going to outperform Smothering Tithe. Smothering Tithe is one of the best white enchantments we have in the format. But I think Smuggler's Share does a really good job in most white decks at getting you both card draw and treasure. So I'm going to read it out for the listeners. Smuggler's Share is a 2 mana and 1 white for an enchantment. This is the beginning of each end step, so each turn. Draw a card for each opponent who drew 2 or more cards this turn. Then create a treasure token for each opponent who had 2 or more lands enter the battlefield under their control this turn. The reason I like this card is because I think for the 2 color combinations that I'm looking at the biggest for this one are your mono white lists, your blue white lists, and your Obscura or your Esper lists. I think this is going to do a really good job at kind of holding up, keep getting value in that mid game when everyone else is going to be drawing cards and ramping and doing that. Hopefully you can put this down and kind of gain the value. So this card, the first time I saw it, I was like, this is a Kaikar All-Star. That goes into that deck for sure. I mean, this is exactly what you want. It draws you cards, it refills your hand. This feels like an All-Star in any mono white list. Like, this is an all-star. This is exactly what you want for 3 mana, especially considering you're going to be having trouble with mana anyway. Reading this card made me want to find a way to slam Monologue Tax and Archaeomancer's Map and our other 2 into a list and make it work.
Wonderful.
So that is going to be one of my little mini goals for this time around. Is to
White Landfall.
is to slam those 3, and of course Smothering Tithe into a list and try to see if we can make this white value that we get from our opponents work. And I think I found the shell for it. I think Kaikar will be a good shell for it. I think Alayla could be a good shell for it. So we'll see. But again, this is a card that really intrigues me. I think this card succeeds where Monologue Tax failed. I think Monologue Tax was too narrow. It only cared about your opponent's casting, of course, more than one spell, which your opponents are not guaranteed to do. Whereas I think more of your opponents are going to draw cards and play lands than they are going to cast 2 spells.
This makes me think, like, if you play like a group hug, then this is a value that you can actually get more of when you're like, oh, hey, everybody draws cards, and now I'm going to draw all the cards. Which I think this is great.
So I think this card is just really interesting. I'm not going to call it the next Smothering Tithe because it's not.
No.
But if you're looking for an excuse to pick up the Obscura deck, this does come in it, and it's worth the value of the deck.
And you get cute raccoons on it.
And they are some very cute raccoons. Raccoons.
They are Sly Coopers.
They are siphoning some
Dude,
Halo.
the amount of Sly Cooper vibes.
But that is card number 1. That's when I read the card of all of these. There are some very fun cards that we've released for these decks. But that was the first card that I read it and was like, man, that's good in like every white list. Like, not even just a white list that cares about artifacts or enchantments. That's good in almost every white list.
Yeah. My first one is also a white card. Also an enchantment as well. Resourceful Defense. Basically, Ozolith 2.0. I call it 2.0 because I don't remember. No, actually, now I do remember. You can't move the counters off of the Ozolith at instant speed. This one you can by paying, unfortunately, 5 mana, but if you're playing into that Bant strategy, I'm sure you have plenty of land at the right time because there are way too many cards that give you plenty of land at the right time.
I want to put a quick aside in here because I actually didn't realize this until today, and I watched somebody's video. You can take loyalty counters off of planeswalkers and put them on this enchantment and move them around.
Oh my goodness.
That's not the first thing I thought about, right? Because I was like,
oh, sweet.
I don't think about loyalty counters as counters. I just think about them as a thing, but they are, which means technically, if you blinked a planeswalker, you could store the counters on it, and then if you had enough mana, put them back and ultimate a planeswalker or have good value. This is also good because in a Super Friends deck, one of your planeswalkers,
just died, or if one of your planeswalkers die.
Fortunately, the damage I think takes off the counters. I'm not sure how that works.
We're gonna have to figure that out.
That's a ruling question, but I think this is huge. This makes some Super Friends decks work a lot better.
Oh my gosh, which is what we needed for sure.
But my thing also is my big thing is blinking. Like, if you found a way to Semester's End or something like that to blink your entire board or blink all of your planeswalkers or creatures, if this pulls everything onto it.
Well, I mean, lore counters on
sagas. Yep. Wow. You have a way to basically instantly third a saga. That when I heard him say planeswalker, I was like, I didn't even think about that.
I don't think about that.
Because remember, the ability says move target number of counters from target permanent you control to another target permanent you control. Also, Mikey, you don't have to move them from this.
No, you don't.
You could, let's say you're playing a Super Friends deck and you have one of those planeswalkers that makes a lot of loyalty counters really easily. You could actually move them from one planeswalker to another. Yeah, this card is crazy.
I'm excited about this card.
This is, when I read this card, I was like, I want to mess around with my Super Friends list again because it just makes me
happy.
Makes me very happy. My next pick is, it was hard. It was going to be very hard in a set that we could already we could already tell kind of cared about treasure further not to be a card that cares about treasures.
I swear if you say it, I'm going to throw my phone.
And the one that really intrigued me was a Reign of Riches.
I'm done! I hate this card!
For 5 mana, 3 and 2 red, it says when it enters the battlefield, create 2 treasures. The first spell you cast each turn that has mana from a treasure spent to cast it has Cascade. We didn't need a Cascade payoff for a specific deck that didn't need to have Cascade.
We didn't need Cascade payoff off of treasures. That's what we didn't need.
No, we did not. No, the red enchantment that actually has me really excited is Industrial Advancement.
No, that's okay.
3 and a red for enchantment. It says at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is that creature's mana value, or the old way to say it would be CMC. You may put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield, put the rest in the bottom of your library. I really like this because if you're playing the Blitz piles, or you're playing things that are going to sacrifice creatures anyway. Remember, Blitz goes off at the end of your end step.
Yep.
This goes off at the beginning, which means you can sacrifice those Blitz creatures, or you can just sacrifice any creature you want. Sack a big creature, go back and get a little one. This pairs really well with the Riveteer's Ascendancy. Riveteer's Ascendancy says whenever you sacrifice a creature, you can bring a creature with less mana value from the graveyard back in. So if you can get these two out together, you could technically make some pretty cool value. You sacrifice one creature, and really you get 2 back, depending on how big the creature is. If you're playing this in like a Zeatora list, like if you're going to go more towards this sacrificing route or the Blitz route, if you play a big 5 or 6 mana Blitz creature,
that's not bad at all.
You could go get a 5 CMC or less creature from your graveyard, so bring one of your little guys that you blitzed before back, and you can go in your deck and get another one and load yourself up for next turn. Now, unfortunately, for advancement, you have to sacrifice it with its ability.
Yes.
So if you sacrificed a creature with Zeatora, you don't get this
that.
enchantment.
No, unfortunately not.
But I still think it's really good.
Yeah, for sure. My next one that I'm excited about is Next of Kin. It's a green enchantment aura. 2 colorless and 1 green. Enchanted creature. When an enchanted creature dies, you may put a creature card a creature card you own with lesser mana value from your hand or from the command zone onto the battlefield. If you do, return Next of Kin to the battlefield attached to that creature at the beginning of your next end step. I think it's just nice. You can just continue to put that pressure on to your opponents having constant creatures coming out onto the field.
Mikey, do you like cheating command tags?
Exactly.
Because that's what you're going to do.
That's exactly what I was about
You're
to say.
going to cheat command tags,
Yep.
Which I think is huge in this case. If you have the first deck I looked at when I saw this card was Goreclaw, because I'm playing a lot of creatures that are bigger than Goreclaw.
Yeah.
And, when one of those bigger creature dies, you just take Goreclaw right out of the command zone and bring it back for free. So this card's really interesting. I actually expected it, honestly, to be an equipment. And I was like, I think this is the first equipment I've ever seen in green. I mean, just green, of course. We've seen 2 colors, but I was like, wow, that one's actually kind of interesting, and I think it'll get played. It'll have lots of good.
That is one, and I think we're gonna probably say this like multiple times over and over again until we beat ourselves to death with it. But the new cards just feel so right in the decks that they have been put in.
Yep.
And it's just great to see that value like really spike in these.
So I really want us to really quick go over the 5 Confluence cards, because
go for it.
Because I don't necessarily love all of them, but I think it's still cool to go through them. So first up, we got Broker's Confluence, 2 in green, white, blue. For an instant, it says choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once.
Yeah.
So this, Mikey, right? This cycle of cards, they're all the same. Choose 3. You can choose one more than once. Is a play on the charms that we have in the set, the charms that we've had in the past, right? Also kind of reminds me of the Atarka command and the Dromoka's commands and that kind of thing we've seen in the past, where here's a list of things you can do, pick 2 of them. Okay? I think these also kind of take a little bit of influence from like Mystic Confluence and things like that. So Brokers says you can pick 3, you can do them more than once. Proliferate, huge. Target creature phases out, still very good. Counter target activated or triggered ability. Ooh, interesting. We don't see much of that. I think that one's pretty cool. Now that is at instant speed. Not all of them are at instant speed. So next we have Cabaret Confluence, 6 mana instead of 5 this time. And it's create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. It gains haste, sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. Not non-legendary, just a token. So if you try to copy a legendary creature, unfortunately you won't get it. Exile target artifact or enchantment. Creatures target player control get +1/+1 and gain first strike until end of turn. Very interesting. This one is at sorcery speed though.
Yeah.
Obscura Confluence, 4 mana. Choose 3. Until end of turn, target creature loses all abilities and has base power and toughness 1/1. We have target creature connives, which remember is their mechanic where you draw X and discard X.
In any non-land permanent you discard, you get a +1/+1 counter.
And then target player returns a creature card from their graveyard to their hand. Of the 3 so far, definitely the best. I think that's huge.
Oh yeah.
That's huge so far. Next up, we have the
Cabaret Confluence, correct?
We did that one already.
Oh.
We got Riveteer's Confluence, which is 5 mana for a sorcerer. You can choose 3. You draw a card and lose a life. It deals 1 damage to each creature and planeswalker you don't control. And you put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. So 4/5 mana. It's a cultivator. It's a migration path plus. Or sorry, it's a what's Sky Shroud Claim +1. Which isn't great, but it also isn't bad. So, and then we have the Maestro's one, which I didn't see.
To the left.
Okay, Maestro's Confluence for 6. The 3 are return target monocolored instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn, and goad each creature target player controlled. So this is a 6 mana goad every creature, which we already have a Disrupt Decorum for that, but you could if you needed to. But that's at sorcery speed. So the only 2 at instant speed. So the instant speed ones were Brokers and Obscura, and the 3 at sorcery speed, Riveteers, Cabaret, and Maestro. All 5 of these confluences are interesting. The thing I really like about them is they fit the 3 color combinations really well.
Yeah.
So these aren't cards that you're just going to play in your Capenna themed lists. I think a couple of these, especially the Obscura Confluence, fits most Esper lists really well.
For sure.
I think
you might razz me for this. I think they fit these Capenna 3 color combinations better than the charms do.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't razz me good.
I think the charms are fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but the charms are definitely feel like they're built to be better in the 3 colors in general than they are in these families, where these confluences really feel like they're better for the families, but I still think they're good overall. But I think that's the point, right? We wouldn't put the name of the family on them if they didn't care about the strategy. But
even though they call it,
I just think they pay off a little better. I just think they pay off a little better here. One of the cards I'm really excited about is Prosperous Partnership. 1 red white for an enchantment. It says when it enters the battlefield, you create 2 1/1 green and white citizen creature tokens. And it says tap 3 untapped creatures you control to create a treasure.
Pretty great.
Of course, really good in the Cabaret strategy, but there are plenty of other tokens decks out there that would care about this. And Boros and other combinations, it doesn't have to be just Cabaret, but I think still really good and really interesting. The one enchantment that kind of caught me off guard, that was interesting, was Life Insurance from the Obscura list. For 3 white and a black, it has Extort. And it says whenever a non-token creature dies, you lose 1 life and you create a treasure token.
That's pretty good.
Mikey, that doesn't say a non-token creature you control dies.
Nope.
So that's very good.
That was very good. I mean, just board wipe, give me all the treasure tokens.
Think about it. Think about a potential magical Christmas Lantern.
Oh, yeah.
Where for 7 mana, you play this and a Vanquish the Hordes to wipe a board and get, I don't know, probably enough treasure to refund it back. The value, Mikey. Anyway,
my next one I like is Contractual Safeguard. 2 colorless, 1 white instant. It has Addendum, which is just a fun word in of itself. But if you cast a spell during your main phase, put a shield counter on a target on a creature you control. It says choose a kind of counter on a creature you control, and then put a counter of that kind on each other creature you control. It could be a +1/+1, flying, first strike, any of those wonderful counters.
So what's cool here is at instant speed, if you already have a counter on one of your creatures, this gives it to all of them.
Yep.
During your main phase, this puts a shield counter on every creature you control. Basically,
if you wanna go that
you
route,
put
yeah.
the shield on the one, and then you could copy it.
Yes,
if you, want.
you could,
What,
yeah.
what I'm saying is, if you don't already have a shield counter on any of your creatures, during your main phase, this puts a shield counter on every one, which is still good.
Yes, especially if somebody is trying to kill you.
I think as far as like, to me, it's like the Riveteers and the Brokers like tie for me on some of the best cards for their strategy that are just darn good.
Yeah.
Very quickly followed up by the Cabaret. Cabaret has some crazy cards.
Yeah, they do.
They have my favorite white card from the set, which is Grand Crescendo, X white. It says create X 1/1 green and white citizen creature tokens. Creatures you control gain indestructible in a turn. Well, I got this is for 0 into the X. This is a protection spell for all your creatures for 2 white. This is a card, it goes in Winota, it goes in this Jet Mirror list that I'm building. I think this goes in Kaikar. This goes in so many of white decks that care about tokens, but it also is, like I said, it's a protection spell.
Yeah.
I mean, this is huge. For just 2 white mana, which is already better than... It's the same price as Heroic Intervention, just in white, which, of course, a mono-white deck wouldn't have access to a Heroic Intervention. Same price for 0 as Boros Charm, which, again, not every white deck has access to give all their creatures indestructible. 1 less than Flawless Maneuver, but, of course, Flawless Maneuver is free if you control your commander, so most of the time it's free. But I like that this is dual purpose.
Yeah.
Not only can you dump whatever mana you have into it to make you some extra tokens, but you can give all your creatures indestructible. This is a good blocking card. This is a good attacking card. I really like this card. I think it fits into a ton of strategies. So
let me talk about one of my favorite creatures. You ready for this? Cyrix, Carrier of the Flame. The Phoenix Commander that we never asked for, but we got him anyway, baby. Strange that it's in a black-red Rakdos combination. Kind of cool still, though, because it does play with the graveyard a little bit, but that's just Phoenix in general, so I think
the black's for the self-mill.
Yeah, for sure.
But every Phoenix that I know of is in red, right?
I was going to say, I think all of them are just in red.
I can't think of a single Phoenix that isn't in red. It isn't in any color but red. I mean, I'm sure there's some corner case one out there, but this plays almost every Phoenix, which is the point. I mean, it has an ability that cares about it. At the beginning of each end step, if a creature card left your graveyard this turn, target Phoenix you control deals damage equal to its power to any target. Well, most Phoenixes have ways to either get themselves back or get other Phoenixes back. And then its last ability says whenever another Phoenix you control dies, you could cast it from your graveyard. So you can get around the commander tax here because you kind of want to leave it in your graveyard.
Yeah.
Now, the only bad part is of course, we want to avoid it getting exiled from our graveyard.
Yeah, you know, it's fine.
But, no, I really like it. In fact, I'm one of my favorite cards, not necessarily on the card itself, but on the art alone, is the Beamtown Bullies.
I was gonna ask you.
I wrote in our chat who wouldn't want to have a beer with the Beamtown Bullies. Like, I just think this card's great. Vigilance Haste for 4, and you can tap it to target opponent whose turn it is, puts target non-legendary card from your graveyard under the battlefield under their control. It gains haste, goad it, beginning of the next end step, exile it. So you can kind of goad your own creatures from your own graveyard and kind of sling them around and have your opponents attack other people. But to me, this is just art win. I love it. And this will be probably an all-star in my Ogre deck that I'm working on. That's the Jund Commander that I'm working on.
Oh, very nice. If we're going to go full art, I like Smuggler's Buggy.
Yeah, that one's cool.
One, it goes in vehicles for sure. It has a really cool ability, and it's a 4-mana 5/5 with only crew 2. Thank you very much. It is got Hideaway 4, and when this artifact enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, and then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Then whenever it deals combat damage to a player, I can cast the exile card without paying its mana cost. And if I do, I have to return Smuggler's Buggy to my hand. But if I'm playing the wonderful new vehicles idea that I have, and I'm ready to actually put that into fruition, that's okay. I'm okay with recasting this artifact from my hand, because Kaikar's in that, and thank you, that's a non-creature spell. I will take my Spirit. Alayla's in that. That's an artifact. I will take my 1/1 Fairy. I'm okay with recasting with a vehicle.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think back on what Commander-specific cards we got in the Strixhaven Commander set, and the big ones I can think of, we had the cycle of spells that had the mechanic where you cast it with counters on it, and you take one off every time, and then it casts, and then it goes back. Like inspiring. The ones that, there was the one that gave you red mana, there was the one that drew cards, but after you cast them, they go back with 2 time counters on them, and you take a time counter off every turn. So I'm just trying to I really feel like this year feels like a slam dunk. It just feels like all the cards are really good.
I mean, look at this. Family's Favor for 2 colorless and 1 green. Whenever you attack, put a shield counter. It's an enchantment. Whenever you attack, put a shield counter on target attacking creature. Until end of turn, it gains. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, remove a shield counter from it. If you do, draw a card. Like, just getting value off of drawing cards is always great, for sure. And putting a shield counter on something now, that's even better, because now you're going into attack saying, hey, I basically have death touch if we have the same power and toughness. That's pretty great.
There's 2 green sorceries in this that I'm kind of a little intrigued at. I know that they seem overcosted, but as soon as you watch one of them resolve, it probably won't be. The first is Crash the Party for 5 and a green. Create a tapped 4/4 green Rhino creature warrior creature token for each tapped creature you control. Which you might say for 6 mana, that seems like a lot. Well, considering the list is already trying to go wide anyway, it's probably going to do a pretty good job at making Rhinos. And remember, we have a new win the game payoff that cares about how many tapped creatures you have. This, unfortunately, factors into that.
Yeah, it does.
And then my favorite new one, because she's one of my favorite green planeswalkers, Vivian Stampede for 4 and 2 green. It says each creature you control gets Vigilance, Trample, and Melee until end of turn. Melee, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, is the ability that says each creature gets +1/+1 for each opponent you're attacking this turn, I think.
I believe that is correct.
So, of course, if you attack all 3 of your opponents, you'll get +3/+3 for each creature. It says, beginning of the next main phase this turn, draw a card for each player who has dealt combat damage.
Yeah.
Which is probably going to be all of them if you're swinging well. So, very interesting. Again, I kind of worry it might be just a teeny bit overcosted. I mean, the question, this versus Triumph, the answer, of course, is Triumph. But I think it's a fun, interesting card that could be fun in your mono green lists where you're trying to slam through anyway. Like, this feels good in a Hydra's list. This feels good in a...
This feels good in a Lathril list because, I mean, you're giving them it's another way to give them vigilance.
You're giving them
trample.
all trample.
Yeah. So now you're attacking with a huge amount of numbers. You come out of that after people have already lost life. Now you're tapping them, and people are losing even more life, and you're gaining more life. Yay, Lathril.
And then I realized we did get a mono green equipment
Yeah.
in Scepter of Celebration. This card looks really cool. Equip 2 and a green to bring it down, 3 to equip. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has trample. And it says whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 citizen creature tokens, which it's good in this list. It's good in the Cabrera list. I think this is perfect for like Chishiro, like the deck we just saw. I think this is perfect for a lot of different things. This goes great in the Selesnya token stack. This goes great in so many different lists.
Very corner case. I know that a lot of people probably aren't worried about this guy, but the mono green legendary that we got out of Shishiro, his name is...
oh, yeah, the dude.
Yeah, the dude, for sure. The Big Lebowski.
His official name, the dude.
I'm not the Big Lebowski, I'm the dude. Kasu, maybe?
Kosai.
This would be good if you wanted to build around Kosai. I think he's got a really, really cool ability that could miss the mark if you kind of just overlook it. I know it's not that great, but I think it's just a really cool thing to do damage to everybody. This is why I like cards like Kedis as well. Just the ability to do damage to all your opponents just for doing one thing, I think is just a really, really great thing to have. So giving him +2/+0 and trample is good. Especially when you want blockers.
And then we can talk really quickly about the cards that we saw that were going to be... We'll talk really quickly. Are there any of the set booster commander cards that you were interested in? Those were the ones... I think the best one, in my opinion, is Spiteful Repossession. 4 and a red for a sorcery. It says it deals damage to each opponent who controls more lands than you, equal to the difference. Then you create that many number of treasure tokens. That's huge in any list that cares about treasures, because most of the time you're going to be behind on lands because you're using the treasures for advantage.
Yeah.
We do have a commander Of course, every set booster collection of commander cards has had a commander. This time around, it is Vazi, Keen Negotiator. 2 black, red, green for a legendary human advisor. Haste, tap, target opponent creates X treasure tokens, where X is the number of treasure tokens you created this turn. It says, whenever an opponent casts a spell or activates an ability, if mana from a treasure token was spent to activate it, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and draw a card. A little too risky for me.
Very risky, especially when you have cards like, I don't know, Crackle.
I don't mind handing other players lands most of the time. Like I know, you know that one of my favorite board wipes of all time is Winds of Abandon, because most people don't play that many basics in their lists.
Unless it's me.
And I don't mind handing people lands, but treasures are a little dangerous.
For sure.
Hand someone.
For sure. They tap for any mana. You can, if you're, I don't know. There's just too many cards that we've seen over the past 6 months that just want to give you so much treasure payoff. And I think that is just going to be very, very stab yourself in the back, shoot yourself in the foot, cut your finger off kind of card.
The card that really excited me until I read the rest of it was Boxing Ring.
I really thought you were going to be excited about
For
this
1 and a green, an artifact says when a creature enters the battlefield you control, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control with the same mana value. I really wish it didn't have the same mana value, but it would have been super broken if not.
That's so weird. I really was confused on that.
But and you can tap it to create a treasure, activate only if a creature fought this turn. You know, there's a lot of Gruul fight lists out there.
For sure.
And I think this does really well.
I think the second part definitely can still be considered into your Gruul Fight Club lists and stuff like that, but on its own, eek.
The other card from the set commander cards that I really think is interesting is called Tenuous Truce. For 1 and a white, it's an enchantment aura. You enchant an opponent, so it's kind of like one of the curses where you enchant an opponent.
Yep.
It says at the beginning of the enchanted opponent's end step, you and that player both draw a card. It says when you attack enchanted opponent or a planeswalker they control, or when they attack you or a planeswalker you control, you sacrifice it. This kind of reminds me of like Wedding Ring that we got from Crimson Vow, but it's a little bit different.
This reminds me of
Wedding Ring says whenever they draw, you draw.
Yeah.
This says what at your end step we both get to draw, which I think is just really interesting. It's 2 mana.
Yep.
Which I think is huge. In any white deck, I think this is just great because especially if you're a 1 or 2 color white deck where you're going to be hurting for cards anyway, I think this is going to end up being really important. So this is definitely something I might flirt with in a Layla or Kai card, just seeing if it gets you enough value.
Yeah, this reminds me of Flump from AFR, except for you want to hurt Flump so you both can draw the card, but you don't want to kill Flump being a 0/4 flyer.
I am going to mention one other last card from our commander thing, just because it's a deck that I've flirted with for a long time, and it probably won't be ever a deck that I build, but this would be the perfect card for it, and that's Weathered Sentinels. It's a 3 mana artifact creature wall. Bant Walls, baby. It's here, and it's proud. It's Defender, Vigilance, Reach, Trample. It's a 2/5. It says when it can attack players who attacked you during their last turn, as though it didn't have Defender.
That's pretty good still.
And it says whenever it attacks, it gets +3/+3 and gets indestructible on a turn. This is a 3 mana wall. And when it attacks a player that attacked you, it's a 5/6 with indestructible, trample, vigilance, and rage. I love Arcades Walls. It's a deck that I will always enjoy. I like to pull it out from time to time. This is a perfect card for it. And I hope that there's the one other Arcades Walls guy out there who's like, yeah, new walls.
100% love walls. No, I love your walls list. I've played it before. I think this definitely goes in it for sure.
It's gross.
It's
and
gross.
This is one of those.
Fun.
This is one of those top end cards that just you look at it twice and you go,
oh, it does that.
I'm sorry, what? Yeah.
No, I think Arcades is great by himself too. Probably the second, as of right now, second best Bant commander out there, behind Tulane. Tulane's number 1. Then, as of right now.
I love that you're just discounting like the Voltron commander Tsubasa, like one of the easiest Voltron commanders to build.
She'll be number 3. It's fine.
I'm just being funny. I really like Arcades. That's a deck that I will build at some point, just because I have the whole mana base at this point. It would just be, and most of the walls are pretty inexpensive. I just think it's a fun list. It's fun to give to newbies because they play the deck and don't really
understand
until they have a absolute unit amount of walls, and they're like, wait, I can swing with these now, and you're like, yeah, good luck.
Go for it.
But that, guys, is going to wrap up our conversation around the new Capenna Commander. I literally almost said Neon Dynasty Commander. New Capenna Commander.
You are stuck on Kamigawa.
It's our most recent set. I have to be stuck on it.
Nah.
I have to say, Mikey, I am beyond elated for Capenna. I'm just very excited that I think this is the first time in the last few sets that we've been playing that I can say that there are a lot of people around me in our play group who are as excited about this set as we are.
I'm excited to sit
Our
down.
entire Monday night group is excited about this set.
Yes.
We have our friends, a couple of our other friends in our play group who are really excited about this set. I love seeing that there are commanders in this that are making people's heads turn. People are wanting to brew. Of course, as a brewer, that's what I seek to do, is force other people against their will to brew. No,
I was going to say, this unfortunately makes me want to make more decks, and I'm just like, I'm running out of room here.
But what this is going to do is going to produce a lot of fun head-to-head episodes. Get ready.
Oh, snap.
We haven't figured out the exact schedule yet, although all the previews are out now.
If you have an idea for us, drop in the Discord.
Yeah, drop it in the Discord.
Or if you're listening and you know who we are.
We will at
personally.
minimum, and I think we can say this for sure, we will at minimum do one episode on each family.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's...
We're not sure exactly what that'll look like, but we will do at least one episode on each family.
The only issue with that, I will say the caveat with everything is right around the corner we do have Commander Legends 2, which we are super excited about. That brings so much beauty to our format that we all know and love and hate. So do be like aware of that we will.
Well, I count we have about 6 weeks between Capenna and Commander Legends 2, and remember that as a Commander podcast, we care a lot about Commanders, so Commander Legends 2.
So we're going to spend as much as we
My guess is
possibly
we'll
can.
probably hit 1 week on each of them,
that's what I was gonna say.
and then we'll figure out something else. And this is a set that we will come back to.
Yeah,
this is not a set that we will just skip over. And
it's a 3-color combination. I was thinking about this earlier. I wish that Tarkir had something like this happening back then, and we had the commander decks built around those 5 tribes rather than what we got. And granted, don't get me wrong, I like what we got back then, but I think that would be a lot of
all right,
fun.
Mikey, I'm gonna bring back a trend.
Oh gosh.
We did last time, and I'm gonna see if we can get it this time. I think it's a giveaway time.
Oh snap!
For
crackle,
this
pop.
set. So.
Oh crap.
Unfortunately, this time we are not getting a collector's booster box. We are just going to get a set box.
We're tired of getting trash.
And a bundle. But the giveaway this time.
Oh snap! Here we go.
Is going to be for a. We're going to do 2 set boosters.
Dang, you're generous. That sounds
and
good.
the bundle promo, which is.
Whoa! You are going nuts right now. Hang on. What are you doing?
Pull it up. Help me.
Oh crap! Don't have my phone on me. Sorry.
Bail me out.
Keep
continuing to bail me out.
We'll just keep saying until we figure it out.
It's the.
It's the card. It's the guy. It's the dude. I can tell you, I have not looked at Capenna enough. I need to look at it more, which is usually what I do the couple of days before the pre-release. Which also reminds me, man, I miss when we.
It's one of the vehicles.
It's the buggy, not the getaway car, but the jalopy, right? Or is it the getaway car?
I think it's the white one.
Oh, the hearse. Hang on. Wait a minute. Hold on.
I don't think it's the limousine.
New. Capenna.
It is. It's the limousine. Mysterious limousine.
Dang it.
So, the giveaway this time is going to be for 2 Streets Capenna set boosters.
Okay.
And the bundle promo, Mysterious Limousine. Mikey, you completely threw me off last time for what the card's going to be.
Oh, we're doing another card. Okay, cool.
So we're going to do another card again. I feel like it's the coolest way to do it.
Oh, yeah.
What card name?
Let me think.
Like, I know what I sell. Like, I was trying to think of an idea, like, of, and all I kept thinking of was cards that have anything to do with the Great Gatsby. Because to me, like, so much of the Cabaretti just feel Great Gatsby to me. Like, in the way
all
that they.
All I can think of right now is Leonardo DiCaprio doing the Cheers. And so I really want to just make a card. I want to make a card called Cheers, where everybody knows your name.
Where everybody knows your name.
I don't know. All I can think of is just him doing the nice little cheers thing, man.
Okay, I've got it, because I think it could be really interesting.
Go for it.
The card name this time is going to be Life of the Party. It's going to be kind of open-ended, because it could be a creature, it could be a spell.
I'm making mine country themed.
But Yeah, very very Gatsby themed for me.
Yeah, I
that's
like
that's just what I think of when I see the Cabaret and I see Capenna. I just think of Gatsby.
For sure.
So the card name this time is going to be Life of the Party. Again, in order to get involved in the giveaway, what you have to do is go into our Discord, tell us what the card is, how much it costs, what type of card it is, and what the effect is. Bonus, brownie points if you make art or
we will definitely.
We won't give you any extra entries, but we will definitely get brownie points from us if you make.
We'll definitely
flavor
raise an
text
eyebrow and be like, hey.
But we're going to announce this over the next couple episodes, and we'll give it a little bit of time since we're announcing this a lot sooner to the set release than we did last time.
For sure.
We will definitely announce it later, and that'll be coming out. So, guys, if you're interested, start thinking of your card. Life of the Party. Come on over to the Discord.
We should have said Tommy gun.
I actually really thought about it, but I thought it was too on the nose.
Or like Bank Heist. I think Bank Heist is already. No, it's not.
But that's it for us this time, guys. Liquid Death, please sponsor us.
We'll see you later.
Catch you guys next time.